We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Heath. I've got some diagrams here. I'm sure you're going to show at some point. I don't know that I've got those diagrams here.
As a reminder, Heath is the fellow who had that basement where he had the water softener system and the sprinkler system thing and the little recessed area. And we said, yep, go ahead and use that. Put up an acoustically transparent wall in front of that.
Right.
So that's who we're talking about.
Heath's neighbor who bought the pair of SVS PB13 Ultras, I don't remember anything about that, went ahead and bought a full set of Hyperion Veras 2 Grands after you heard Heath talk about them. They should have mentioned us to get 20%. They sound great, and Heath is looking forward to getting his set. So that's good. Speaking of which, as mentioned during our Listeners of the Week, he called Hyperion, and they said they're in the process of switching factories, which is going to mean back orders until May. That made Heath decide to order his speakers now.
Yep.
And when he mentioned AVRant to them, okay, this is a 20% discount. Okay,
That's
good.
Right.
The neighbor also ended up returning his dual PB13 Ultra subwoofers to get a pair of PB16 Ultras instead. Who is your neighbor? What neighborhood do you live in? That's your neighbors. It's now a war of attrition, dude. You need to go to Power Sound Audio. Buy the biggest thing they got. No, don't do that. All right. So he's really looking forward to hearing those PB16 Ultras. All right. So, on to the questions. He says there were some issues with the person who drew up the build plans originally. This is always the case. The contractor looked and informed Heath that the room can't be built exactly how it was drawn. Because of this, he's losing some floor space in the main seating area from the original plan. In the main seating area. So the new room length from false wall to back wall is 14 feet 11 inches, so what's 15 feet. The riser for the second row will be 5 feet 10 inches long. Okay.
So
Heath has estimated
at the back of the room there. Yep.
Yeah. Heath has estimated that his front row seats will be 7 feet from eyes to screen, which is way closer than he wanted.
Yeah.
He went out to a movie theater and determined that he likes about a 47-degree field of view, so he's dropped the planned screen size down to 84 inches. But his wife is trying to talk him into still going with something big. His wife is trying to talk him into going with a bigger screen. Isn't that always the way, Heath? Any thoughts? Let me see. 7 feet, 84 inches is, I agree with your wife, it's too small.
So that is 47-degree field of view, though. From 7 feet away. Now I'm looking at all of this, and I'm thinking, if that riser at the back is 5 feet 10 inches long, it makes sense that if he's trying to keep some space behind his back row and then still maintain 5.5 feet between rows, that he would end up about 7 feet away from eyes to screen.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? You've got yourself into a situation where 7 feet to a projection screen it's really close. It's really close in my opinion. I'd rather get
kind of what I said. I'm sorry.
Really?
It's kind of what I said. Yeah, it's not that much farther than what I said.
I'm like,
I don't know. I'd have to measure it.
I'm
It might
talking
be
even
10.
7.5 or 8 feet because he's got to go acoustically transparent too. So even with that Seymour ultrafine
that's the weave
fabric,
thing. Yeah.
You're really close. So 7.5 feet, 8 feet, I think is doable. Now, what might end up happening is that means your back row has its back against the back wall. That just might be
There's nothing wrong with that.
How that works out. But you've got this 5 foot 10 inch long riser at the back of the room. That means this could be done if you basically push your front row right back against that riser and then have the back row of seats back against the back wall. Now you can get yourself definitely 7.5 feet for sure. I think 8 feet. At which point, even if you want to keep that 47-degree field of view, now you can go, in the case of 7.5 feet, you can go to a 92-inch screen. Standard size, very easy to obtain, and 7.5 feet has to be doable. It has to be.
I agree with 92 inches, even if you're at 7 feet. Sorry.
Yeah. If you go to 8 feet, you could go to a 100-inch screen. Again, very standard size. So that's my feeling on it. Find a way to move back at least 6 inches. It's doable. It will mean less than optimal for your rear row, but I think that's just where we are now.
I'm going to say this just as a blanket statement right now. If you're trying to save some money in your home theater build and you want a projection screen, you have to go with a standard size screen. A standardized screens will literally save you thousands of dollars. The minute you call these companies up.
Coming from Seymour AV, their standard sizes go by width, so it actually won't be 92 and 100 from them. But
right.
But yeah, I mean,
but if you don't go with the standard size, it's like a custom one-off. It's like ordering. It's like the difference between buying, a piece of furniture off of the showroom floor versus going in and meeting with a artisan and saying, this is what I want, and having them design something for you. It is that much of a difference. It is massive. So I would highly recommend that you go with the standard screen. If that means a little bit too big or a little bit too small, go with the standard screen.
So so Seymour, they have a standard 85-inch width. That is a 97.5-inch diagonal. That's big. Perfect for 8 feet. All right, that gives you almost exactly your 47-degree field of view, because it's 96 inches diagonal from 8 feet, gives you exactly a 47-degree field of view. 97.5 inches diagonal, 85-inch width from Seymour AV. That's their standard size. So that's where
I must sit farther back than 7 feet. It just feels really close.
Yeah, 7 feet is really close.
I'm probably sitting like nearly double that. I'm probably sitting close to 12.
Oh, jeez, come on, man.
I don't know, man. My brain's all a mush today.
Really not 7 feet.
It's just very not 7 feet. It's vastly different than 7 feet. All right. He'll be putting the equipment shelving under the stairs where he had already planned to place one of the subwoofers. So if he puts the subwoofer near the gear, should he worry about vibrations or the large magnet causing damage to any of the equipment? Do you have a record player, like a vinyl spinning thing? Because other than that, I wouldn't worry about it. You could theoretically have problems with any sort of spinning disc.
I suppose. I mean, damp your sub. Damp your sub. Don't have it in direct contact with the floor. Put something squishy
sub is within 4. I'll be generous. 5 feet of my gear. Of all of it. And I've never experienced anything before that. I don't think my gear's ever... Well, that's not true. In Australia, it was different. But as long as I lived in the States, my gear has never been further away than 4 feet from a subwoofer. The subwoofer's always been very close, because the subwoofer placement has always been right there. So I would not worry about this one. I know that Rob's right. Get those SVS sound path isolation feet or the grandma pad or whatever it is that you're going to do. And I think that's pretty much all you will have to do. Yep. The large magnet I would not worry about. I just don't see it being much of an option. I mean, much of a problem. I can't imagine.
Really shouldn't be.
Yeah. And I can't. I'm trying to imagine a situation where the magnet would be an issue, and it ain't coming to mind. Based on Dolby specs, he's measured the likely positions of the Atmos speakers to be about 3.5 feet in front and behind the front row. Does it seem fine, or should he move them further out? What is his? I thought his room's short though, isn't it? Is it 7 feet or something like that?
I can't recall. I mean, this is a basement, so it might be below 8 feet, but I don't remember him specifically saying it was going to be that far under. Regardless,
I'm looking at the drawings right now. I don't
even
really
if you had an 8-foot ceiling, you're within the Dolby guidelines. At 3.5 feet, you'd be at the 55-degree mark, which is within the guidelines. They say anywhere between 30 and 55. They say ideally 45, right? Which would mean that if you have your standard 8-foot ceiling, they'd be as much as 5 feet in front of you. But 3.5 feet is the 55-degree mark. So if that's where you would like to put them, however, like I just mentioned at the beginning of this, make sure you nail down where your seat is actually going to go first. I really feel like 7 feet is too close. If you can get to 8 feet, and go with Seymour's 7.5 inch.
All right.
I want to emphasize that so he knows.
You have specified. You're there.
All right, good.
So for the Atmos speakers, Aperion doesn't recommend using a backer box for their in-ceiling speakers. What do we think about building backer boxes for them anyways?
I would.
Aperian's not they're not the boss of you. They don't recommend it, but I don't see any problem with it, so do it. That's what I would do.
Yeah, maybe don't build a super tiny, hem it in backer box, but
I would ask them what would be the optimal space behind their speaker that they would like to have. It should it might be out there someplace anyways. You might be able to just Google search that and then make sure that's what your cabinet size is that's back there. Even if you're just shutting off, putting 2x4s around that part of the cavity so that
Yeah.
you know that'd be fun. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.